Listen, this isn't a ghost story. I'm a soldier, and what I'm about to tell you happened during a mission that was never supposed to make it onto record. The army sent me into the frozen caves of Alaska to investigate disappearances. My orders were simple, recon only. But when I got inside, I found evidence of something the government already knew about, something they've been hiding for decades. Bigfoot isn't a rumor. It isn't blurry tracks or hoaxes. It's flesh and blood, it hunts in packs, and it's smarter than we want to admit. The only reason I'm alive to tell this is because those caves let me go, and I don't know why. Before we start the story, please help our channel by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Also, please drop a comment letting me know where you're watching the story from. Thanks. My name is Jimmy, I'm 26, US Army. They picked me because I don't talk much, and I do what I'm told. The briefing was short. A steel table, a map with a red circle over the north of Alaska. The major tapped the circle with a blunt finger. Recon only, he said. No heroics, hourly check-ins. Locals report screams at night, hunters missing, hikers too. You go in, you look, you come out. Copy? Copy. They issued cold weather kit and the usual, M4 with optic. 3 mags on the carrier, 1 in the well, sidearm and 2 spare. Headlamp, flares, chem lights, thermal monocular that eats batteries, paracord, tourniquet, pressure bandage, radio with a long whip and a short temper. Someone walked in a body cam on a lanyard and clipped it to my plate. The red LED blinked alive. I signed the card and kept my mouth shut. The bird took off at last light and ran north until the world went white and empty. Ridges, black spruce, hard snow plains broken by old river cuts. The crew chief looked past me the whole flight. When he finally spoke, he kept his eyes on the window. Caves, he said. Locals call them the Blue Mouths. Don't stay inside if the wind turns. Roger, I said. We flared on a narrow ridge. Rotor wash threw dry powder in rings around the skids. The crew pushed a ruck and pelican case at my boots. I jumped down into cold that felt clean enough to burn. The helicopter lifted before the snow settled. When the drum of the blades fell away, the land made its own sound. Thin hiss of drift snow moving over crust. A far crack from lake ice, nothing else. I checked in. 1 on ground. Copy. Hourly, the radio said, then went quiet like it was tired already. I scanned the basin below. The far wall was broken rock and old ice. 3 dark cuts showed in it, side by side, like someone had pressed a thumb into clay. Even from up here, I could see a faint blue glow deep in one of them, the way old ice catches light. The air carried no smell yet. Just cold, just clean. The kind of clean that makes you think you hear things that aren't there. I took a knee, checked the rifle, checked my gloves, tightened the strap on the headlamp. I cracked a single blue chem light and pushed it into the outer pocket of my carrier, ready for a mark. I looked once at the sky. Thin, pale, already losing color. Then I started down the ridge toward the mouths of stone, keeping my steps quiet and my eyes on the openings ahead. The basin floor was hard, frozen flat. My boots left shallow prints, but something else had been here first. Not bear, not wolf. Bigger, bare feet, 5 toes spread wide. Each print was sunk deep, edges still sharp, not filled by wind. The stride was long, measured, no sign of dragging. I bent low, glove brushing the hollow. Fresh, too fresh. The line of tracks cut across the snow and ran to the rock wall. Where the snow ended, the sign didn't. Pebbles were disturbed, small shards of ice knocked loose on ledges. A smear of dark hair caught in a crack of quartz. I pressed a strip of tape to it, peeled it off, slid the hair into a bag. Thick, coarse, black. Not mine. Not from any animal I knew. The wall rose above me, grey, scarred with veins of blue ice. 3 openings. From a distance, they all looked the same. Up close, only one breathed. I stopped at the mouth. A thin stream of air pushed out, faint but steady. Warm, then cold, then warm again, like lungs behind the rock. I lifted my palm. The flow shifted against my skin. The smell came with it. Not sharp, not clean. Damp fur, old meat, iron. It stuck to my nose and made my throat tighten. I listened. The cave made small noises. Drip of water, grind of shifting ice. Then something else, lower. A rub, a shift of weight, not far inside. I keyed the radio low, at sight. Entry found. Signs of large biped, moving in, static, then copy, hourly. The voice was small against the weight of the cave. I looked once at the sky. Color nearly gone, the ridges already turning black. I pulled the balaclava over my mouth, tasted wool and salt, checked the rifle. Checked the light. I pushed a chem light into the snow at the entrance and cracked it until it glowed blue. A mark. If the wind buried my prints, I wanted something human waiting for me on the way out. If there was a way out. The opening swallowed the light. I stepped inside. The rock turned slick under my boots. Ice hung in ribs along the walls, catching the beam of my headlamp and throwing it back dull. The tunnel breathed slow, pulling me down with it. 10 steps in, the glow stick was only a blue dot behind me. 20, and it was gone. The dark closed in, thick, steady, heavy, with a smell that wasn't just stone anymore. That was when the mission truly began. The tunnel closed around me fast. Ceiling low enough that my helmet brushed ice, walls wet with slow beads of water that slid down and froze on old scars in the stone. My light bounced dull against them, showing more shadow than detail. The air tasted wrong. Damp, heavy, with that same weight of fur and iron. Every breath stuck behind the mask, sour on my tongue. I kept the rifle tight, muzzle low, light down to a small circle on the floor. 20 yards in, I found the first sign. A torn strap frozen into the wall, fabric stiff as stone. A whistle dangled from it, bent, with square bite marks in the metal. Not animal teeth. Not round, not sharp. Flat. Human-shaped. I crouched, studied it, didn't touch. The body cam clicked once when I leaned close, red light steady. Farther in, the floor spread wider. Bones lay scattered, trapped in ice. Caribou ribs, rabbit spines, something larger. One boot. The leather chewed, steel toe scraped bright. A human soul, half buried, turned up like it had been gnawed and spat out. I straightened, swallowed dry. My gloves felt slick even though the air was dry and cold. The cave angled down again. My boots slid once, gravel skittering ahead into the dark. The echo lasted too long, like the space below was larger than the tunnel I stood in. That was when I heard it. Not water. Not stone. A note. Low. Not quite growl, not quite voice. It rose and fell once, steady, carried through the rock until it pressed into my chest. I froze, rifle steady, breath caught. The sound faded. Silence filled its place, heavier than before. I counted 10 heartbeats before I moved again. Each step slower, each breath shorter, the smell sharper with every yard. My radio hissed once. Just static, a flick like someone brushed the channel open and closed again. I raised it to my mouth. One moving, found remains. Not animal. No answer, just stone. I lowered it, kept walking. The floor dipped again, the ceiling dropped, and the tunnel bent left into black I couldn't see through. That was where the smell thickened most. Strong, raw, choking. Something lived in here, and it knew I had come. The bend narrowed so tight, I had to angle the rifle sideways to squeeze through. My pack scraped stone, helmet catching on the low ceiling. The air pressed hotter, fouled with musk. Each breath felt borrowed. I slid out into another chamber, wider but low, the beam of my light throwing crooked shadows. The ground was scattered with gravel, thin ice webs across puddles that cracked under my boots. Then I saw it, on the far wall, smeared dark against pale stone. A handprint. Not paint, not soot. Oil, mixed with dirt, frozen into the grooves. The palm was broad as my plate. Fingers spread wide, nails gouging at the edge. I lifted my glove against it. My whole hand fit inside one finger's span. I pulled back fast. Something shifted above. Pebbles trickled down, bouncing off my shoulder. I cut the light up. The ceiling was black ribs of rock and ice. For a second it looked empty, then 2 pale discs shone back at me. Eyes, too far apart for any man. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just held the light dead and steady, like they had been waiting. My pulse hammered in my ears. Finger curled on the trigger. I froze. The eyes slid sideways, smooth. Then the shape broke, brow heavy, hair dangling, jaw shifting like it chewed slow on something. The size of it filled the space above. I snapped the rifle higher, but by the time the beam steadied, the ceiling was empty again. Just dripping ice. Just stone. I listened hard. Nothing, but the smell was stronger now. Warm, damp, sour fur and rot. I crouched, checked the ground. New prints cut into the frost, sharp-edged, toes spread deep. Still wet inside, meltwater pooling. They hadn't been here long. The chamber held its breath with me. The weight of stone pressed down harder than before. And in that silence, the sound came again, low, steady, too deep for air. Breathing, not mine, from the dark ahead. The breath rose and fell steady, carrying out of the tunnel ahead. I kept still, rifle fixed, light tight on the floor. My own chest barely moved. Then it stopped. Silence thickened, pressing against the walls, against my ears. I waited, heart climbing higher, sweat stinging under the balaclava. The roar came without warning. It wasn't a sound. It was a force. The whole chamber shook with it. My teeth rattled, knees buckled. The body cam clicked, whined like it couldn't hold the noise. I dropped to one side, shoulder slamming rock, rifle clattering before I pulled it back. The roar carried longer than it should have, filling every crack of stone. It wasn't echo. It was inside the walls, inside me, clawing at my skull until my vision blurred. Then it cut off. My ears rang. The silence after was worse. I pulled the rifle close, swept the light fast. The chamber looked the same. Bones scattered, wet stone, nothing moving. But the floor wasn't. Fresh prints dented the frost around me. New, clear, not there before. I turned slow, light shaking across them. Each one wide, deep. Too heavy for anything I knew. The edges sharp, not softened. They led in a circle, around me. The smell burned sharper now, hot and bitter in my throat. Sweat iced down my back. I lifted the radio, voice low, one to base. Contact signs, not alone, only static hissed back. Then nothing. I lowered it. The silence swelled. The chamber felt smaller. Something scraped stone behind me. A slow drag of nail across rock. I turned fast, light catching a gouge fresh and wet, frost flaking off the edge. The roar had told me one thing clear. I wasn't hunting anymore. I was being hunted. The scrape died off, but the chamber didn't feel empty. The air shifted, warm and wet, like a breath rolling through the tunnel. I moved slow, back against the wall, rifle steady. My light cut a thin line across the frost. That was when I saw it. Prints overlapping, crowding one another. Not just one set. Several, different sizes. All fresh. The cave swallowed sound, but the weight of them leaked through. A thump low in the stone. A shuffle carried in the ceiling. Then another from behind. Not echo. Movement. I held my breath. Listened. The noises came in order: left, right, behind. A pattern. Not wandering. Placing. The smell thickened until it stung the back of my throat. Damp hair, meat gone sour. I swallowed hard and it stayed with me, bitter on the tongue. Above, grit showered down. I swept the light up and caught a flash of black fur rippling across the rock ribs. Too fast to hold. Gone before the beam steadied. I shifted forward, boots sliding careful. My glove brushed the wall and came back slick. Not water. Sticky, dark. Strands stretching between fingers. I wiped it off fast on my thigh, pulse hammering. The radio stayed dead. I wanted the noise, any noise, but it wouldn't give me one. The red blink of the body cam stared up steady like an eye. Then came the rumble. Low, drawn, carrying weight. It shook dust loose from the ceiling and trembled through the strap of my helmet. Another answered it from the rear, shorter, sharper. Then a third, farther away. My throat went dry. They weren't calling for each other by accident. They were talking. The chamber grew tighter, walls pressing in. Sweat slid cold down my spine. My breath fobbed in the light and I held it down, afraid even that thin cloud would give me away. They weren't scattered shadows anymore. They were all around me. The rumbles traded back and forth, rolling through the stone like messages. One deep, one sharp, one farther, all weaving together until the chamber itself felt alive. I swept the light across the floor. The prints told the same story. Not random, not scattered. They curved into a wide ring, circling where I stood. My boots pressed the middle, small and shallow against the weight of theirs. The air pressed hotter. Sweat burned down my temples, froze in the mask's fabric. I tried to slow my breathing, but every inhale dragged their musk deeper into my chest. Wet fur, rot, the sour bite of iron. Pebbles dropped behind me. I turned fast, light cutting the wall, just stone, gouged deep in 3 places, frost still breaking at the edges. Fresh. Too fresh. The sound of a step followed, deliberate. Not rushing. Testing. I swung back. My beam caught it this time. Eyes. 2 pale discs hanging in the black. High, wide apart, unblinking. The light reflected wet off the surface, then narrowed. They blinked once. I froze. Rifle locked. My heart too loud in my ears. Another pair opened beside them. Same height. Same dead blow. The air shifted again. From above. I tilted the light higher, and another pair looked down. Higher still, pressed into the ceiling. They weren't hiding. They were showing me. The chamber filled with weight I couldn't see. Steps soft against stone, claws rasping. My light jerked side to side, catching nothing but walls slick with frost. Then a hand slid out of the dark. Massive, fingers spread, nails black and cracked, each one long enough to gut a man. It pressed slow against the wall. Stone groaned. Frost shattered in flakes. It dragged down, leaving 4 deep gouges wet with melt. I raised the rifle. My breath caught. The hand pulled back into the dark. The eyes didn't move. They just stared, steady, patient. That was when I understood. They weren't chasing me through the cave. They were closing me in. The chamber went silent again. No rumbles, no steps. Just the drip of water somewhere deep and the sound of my own breath fogging the mask. I kept the rifle tight, the light fixed on the spot where the hand had vanished. The smell was heavier now, bitter enough to sting my eyes. It pressed in with the heat of bodies I couldn't see. The red blink of the body cam caught the frost, ticking steady like a clock. Then I heard it. Not a growl, not a roar. A laugh. Low at first, rough, broken like stone grinding on stone. It rose out of the dark ahead, carried along the walls until it wrapped around me. The sound cracked midway, the way a throat not made for laughter would break trying. Another answered it, from behind. Higher, jagged. Then another, far off, deep enough to make the floor shiver. The chamber filled with them. Overlapping, uneven, too many to count. Some high, some low, all tangled together. I froze. Every instinct screamed to fire, to run, to do anything, but I stayed locked. My finger tightened on the trigger, shaking against the guard. The laughter swelled, echo twisting until it sounded like it was coming from inside my own chest. It rolled through the stone, through my bones, until I thought I'd choke on it. Then it stopped, all at once. The silence after was worse. I swept the light across the floor. New prints cut the frost at my feet, toes spread, edges wet, pressed so deep they still steamed in the beam. They had closed the circle. The chamber wasn't just full of echoes anymore. It was full of them, and they were close enough to touch. The silence pressed so hard it rang in my ears. My light shook across the frost. The prints around me were fresh, edges sharp, meltwater pooling in the grooves. My chest tightened. They weren't waiting anymore. The roar came sudden, not the long call from before, short, savage, right in front of me. The air blasted hot and foul across my mask. I fired. Reflex. 3 rounds cracked into the dark. The muzzle flash showed a face for a heartbeat, hair dripping, teeth bared, eyes shining pale. The bullets hit. I saw spray on the wall, black and wet. But it didn't fall. It lurched forward, filling the beam, arm swinging wide. The back of its hand smashed the stone beside me, showering grit and shards. The shock knocked me down, rifle clattering. I scrambled back, grabbed the gun, swept the light high. Another shape rushed in from the left, bigger, faster. I squeezed off a burst. Rounds sparked off stone, some hitting meat. It staggered, but kept coming, teeth snapping open, breath rolling out hot enough to fog the lens. The chamber thundered with more voices. Roars layered on each other, echoing until the walls shook. Steps hammered from every side. The air trembled with them. I shoved up against the wall, firing wild into the dark. One round hit close, the creature flinched, howled low but didn't stop. A hand whipped through the light, nails scraping my carrier. The fabric tore, straps cut clean. The blow spun me sideways. My ribs burned. I swung the rifle up again, finger heavy on the trigger. The magazine spat dry. Click. The eyes in front narrowed. The laugh came back, broken and harsh, shaking through the chamber. I yanked a flare from my pouch, struck it. Red light bled across the walls, harsh and raw. The chamber glowed in veins of fire. That's when I saw them. Not one, not two. 5. All shapes filling the stone, teeth gleaming, eyes catching the flare's light. And every single one stepping closer. The red flare hissed in my hand, spitting sparks, bleeding harsh light over the walls. The chamber glowed like fire caught under ice. For the first time, I saw them fully. Massive frames hunched low to fit the space. Fur thick and dripping with meltwater. Arms long enough their hands dragged stone. Faces half hidden under shadow, but eyes bright wide apart, never blinking. 5 of them standing still, shoulders rising and falling in rhythm. They didn't rush me, not yet. They spread, slow, careful, edging around the chamber until each tunnel mouth held one, blocking every path out. The smell doubled, thick and wet, pressing the air heavy into my lungs. My mask felt useless. Every breath brought them deeper inside me. I backed toward the far wall, rifle empty, flare spitting red smoke. My boots skidded on frost. Bones cracked underfoot. A skull rolled, knocking against stone with a hollow clack. The creatures answered with low sounds, not roars, rumbles. Passing back and forth, like orders traded in a language I couldn't understand. The echoes folded together until I couldn't tell which one was speaking. They started moving again. Not toward me, around me. Steps echoing slow, deliberate, herding me. The flare hissed lower, burning fast. I pulled another, struck it. More red washed the walls. The light showed nests pressed into alcoves, piles of branches, fur, moss, all soaked dark with stains. Bones arranged along the edges like fence posts, human bones among them. I froze. A torn jacket sleeve hung from one pile. Rank stitched on it, same as mine. Faded, stiff with frost. I crouched fast, grabbed it. The fabric cracked in my hands. A patch still clung to the shoulder. Same unit, same gear. Someone had been here before, and they hadn't come back. My gut turned to ice. The flare sputtered in my hand, smoke choking the air. The shapes stepped closer, one dragging claws slow against stone, another rumbling deep enough to rattle my ribs. I knew then this wasn't random. This wasn't a chance encounter. They had done this before, and I was just the next one in line. The flare burned low, spitting red onto the frost. My breath came heavy through the mask, each pull sour with their stink. The walls closed in with shadows that moved where the light didn't. I edged sideways, keeping the rifle tight though the mag was empty. My glove brushed stone rough, then smooth. I looked. A carving. Lines cut deep into the wall, not random. Shapes. Rough figures bent under something larger. Scratched faces stretched into open mouths. Hands raised like they were holding the ceiling up or begging. Crude but clear. Old. I traced one line with my finger. The groove still sharp, not worn. It hadn't been here long. My light caught something farther in. A shape on the ground, hunched. I moved closer, slow, flare held high. A skeleton sat against the wall. Gear rusted, webbing torn. The helmet caved in on one side, teeth still clenched in a frozen jaw. Dog tags dangled on the chest, black with frost. I knelt, wiped them clear. US. Army. Same branch. Same unit. My throat tightened. Beside the body lay a rifle, old model, metal pitted with rust. The stock was cracked, deep grooves chewed into the wood. Not by age, by teeth. The bones told the rest. Arms scattered, ribs torn, femurs snapped in half. Not clean breaks, chewed down until splinters stuck in the ice. I stared at the tags in my hand, breath clouding over them. He had been me once. Same orders, same path. Left here like a warning no one would ever hear. The chamber rumbled again. One of them growled, long, low. Not at me, at the others. Answering. The sound rolled past the body, stirred the tags on their chain until they jingled faint, brittle. The creature in the tunnel stepped closer, shoulder brushing the wall, claws scraping grooves fresh into the stone. Another answered from the opposite side. They hadn't killed me yet. They could have, easy. They were driving me, pushing me deeper, just like him. The flare spat its last hiss and died, leaving nothing but the blink of the body cam and the white shine of eyes in the dark. Darkness poured back in when the flare died, thick as water. Only the body cam's red blink showed I was still there. My ears caught the sound of them shifting, slow, heavy, claws scraping, not charging, not retreating, waiting. I slid another mag into the rifle, racked it, the clack sharp against the silence. The sound made them stir, growls rolling low, like thunder in stone. I pushed deeper, one tunnel bending into a cavern wider than the rest. My light snapped on, beam slicing across the chamber. They were there, three shapes in front, hunched, swaying. Fur matted, shoulders brushing the walls. Their heads tilted against the light, eyes shining white, jaws twitching. One stepped forward. The floor trembled. I fired. The crack tore through the cavern, muzzle flash stuttering the scene in harsh frames. The rounds hit, dark spray marking fur. The creature jerked but kept moving, eyes locked, teeth bared. Another broke left, faster. I swung, squeezed, caught it in the shoulder. It snarled, stumbled, slammed a hand into the wall, gouging deep grooves as if the rock were clay. The third came straight. I dropped, fired up into his chest. It reeled, roared, the sound breaking my head open, rattling my bones. I grabbed a grenade, thumbed the pin, hurled it at the center of them. The blast punched the chamber. The walls split, ice and stone crashing down. Dust filled the air, choking, thick. A scream cut through it, high, raw, wounded. I dropped flat, covered my head. Rock rained down, hard chunks striking armor and bone. The floor shifted under me, rolling. When the dust thinned, the cavern was split. One tunnel blocked with rock and ice collapsed into a heap. The shapes beyond howled, muffled, rage trapped behind stone. I coughed hard, lungs burning. Blood ran hot down my side. My ears rang sharp, everything distant. But I was alive. For now. The cavern groaned, dust still sifting from cracks above. More collapse was coming. The only way left was a narrow chute, low and jagged, air faintly colder inside it. Behind me, the roars kept coming, claws scraping against rock, shaking dust loose in bursts. They weren't gone, just waiting, and they wanted me deeper still. The chute cut down at an angle sharp enough I had to crawl, rifle strapped tight against my chest. Stone scraped armor, tore cloth. Each pull dragged grit into my gloves. My breath came fast, mask damp with it. The air in the chute was colder, cleaner. It carried a draft, faint but steady, like a promise of open ground somewhere ahead. I shoved toward it, elbows raw, knees slipping on frost. Behind me, the cave answered. A roar, muffled by the collapse, then another. Claws raked stone, the sound high, angry. Dust shook loose from the ceiling above me, showering my back. They hadn't stopped. They were digging. I moved faster, dragging myself through the narrow cut. The body cam clicked against rock, red light still blinking. My shoulders scraped raw through the plate carrier, ribs aching with each pull. The chute opened just enough to let me crouch. I snapped the light up and froze. Bones. Piled along the edges of the passage, human and animal mixed. Skulls cracked, ribs scattered, limbs stacked like firewood. Bits of cloth clung to some, faded patches, torn boots. One helmet dented deep in the crown, chin strap still fastened. The smell here was worse. Old rot layered on fresh kill. My stomach turned, bile climbing. I swallowed hard and kept moving. The draft grew stronger. I tasted cold on my tongue. I pushed harder, boots scraping, lungs burning. The tunnel climbed now, steep, jagged. My hands slipped on stone wet with melt. Behind me, another roar, louder this time. Close. I shoved forward, knees screaming. The light cut across a crack above, thin, pale, faint as a knife blade through curtains. Daylight. I dragged toward it, shoving rocks out of the way. My gloves tore open, skin splitting under them. The crack widened under my weight until a slab gave, falling outward with a crash. Snow burst in, cold and sharp, flooding the passage with white light. I pulled myself out, face first into powder, lungs gulping air so cold it burned. The world outside was still. White ridges, silent trees, a sky dim with early gray. For a moment it was empty. Then the sound came again. A roar, deep roar, bursting out of the cave behind me. They were still there, and they knew I'd found the way out. I staggered down the slope, boots punching holes in the crust, every breath tearing my lungs raw. Blood soaked my side where stone had split me open. My legs shook, but kept moving, one step, then another. Behind me, the cave mouth gaped black in the rock, roaring, spilling out like smoke. Shapes moved in the dark. I saw them for a second, broad, tall, crowding the opening. But they didn't come into the light. They stayed in the shadow, voices tangled together, rumbling until the ground itself trembled. The radio crackled in my ear, sudden, sharp. "Jimmy, respond. Do you copy?" I grabbed it with frozen fingers. Alive. Out. Hostiles in cave. Not. My voice broke in static. The bird came 20 minutes later, though it felt like hours. Rotor wash churned snow into a blizzard, drowning out the echoes still rolling out of the mountain. Hands pulled me up, strapped me down. Someone pressed gauze into my side. The body cam was unhooked before I could say a word. I tried. I said what I'd seen. The prints, the bones, the eyes, the laughter. The faces too close to human. No one looked at me. In the debrief tent, an officer read from a sheet. Cave-in. Mission incomplete. No confirmed contact. He didn't raise his eyes once. The tags I'd found, gone. The footage, gone. Even my rifle was replaced before I could ask. When they cut me loose weeks later, they told me not to speak of it. Hunters, bears, imagination. That was the line. But I know what I saw, what I smelled, what laughed in the dark. I see their eyes when I close mine. I hear the scrape of claws in walls that weren't supposed to move. I wake with the taste of iron in my throat. They're still in those caves, waiting, watching, and I wasn't supposed to survive. So, that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. See you soon.